Is it over yet? We all know how bitter the winters are down here in Alabama, so I make sure I bundle up. It's like the icebergs of Kodiak down here. On your average day when it's below 50 in the winter, I know that I have to wear at least 7 coats. Which reminds me, let's get to it. It's time to bring out my heavy guns. It's time for my winter fragrance rotation. Winter is coming. No. What's that? No more Game of Thrones jokes. No more winter is coming jokes. Winter is one of my favorite times for fragrances because I get to pick out my densest, beastliest fragrances. Some of these are some of my favorite fragrances of all time. So let's get straight to my first pick, which is, I had to bring it out, Amen by Thierry Mugler. Amen, obviously fantastic fragrance. To me, every time I smell this, I always get the impression that it's supposed to be reminiscent of freshly brewed black coffee. Obviously coffee in the notes, patchouli, a tar note, chocolate, vanilla. It's really good. It starts off really harsh with the tar note, dries down into this really chocolatey caramel coffee fragrance. Ooh, it's good. I get a lot of compliments when I wear this. Some of the compliments I get are that I smell just like a man, and that's awesome. And of course, I have a review of this if you want to go check that out too. Next on the list is kind of an underrated fragrance from the house of Thierry Mugler, and that is Taste of Fragrance. Now, Taste of Fragrance was released in a whole Taste of Fragrance line. Sometimes people call this pure chili, which is not called that. But the hook with this one is that they added another food component to Amen, and they added chili to this, which is why some people call it pure chili, even though it's not called pure chili. It's a great fragrance, and it is really yummy. It's real spicy, and it kind of actually reminds me of fresh gingerbread, and I really like that about this. Of course, I have a review down below if you want to go check that out. Really great one. Okay, so next on the list is Ombre Rousse by Parfums d'Empire, or however you say it. My French is immaculate, of course, as always. Now, Ombre Rousse is one of my favorite amber fragrances because it is so different. Really great for the wintertime, but it is definitely amber. It also has a boozy quality about it that's supposed to have kind of vodka. As the name suggests, it's supposed to be a Russian influence of amber, and I have no idea if it actually lives up to Russia, but that boozy quality kind of does, I guess. It's got a lot going on, and there's some spice and some other things in there. Really, I get a lot of notes that aren't listed in here. Like I get olive, I get hay, I get raisins, and caramel. None of that sounds good, but it's actually really, really good. It's one of the most unique fragrances that I have, and I really like it in the wintertime. And of course, I have a review down below if you want to go check that out. All right, so let's break out the imaginary authors. Apparently, I always wear imaginary authors all year long. So let me go ahead and start off with Cape Heartache. This is my decant right here. Cape Heartache is a really cool fragrance that has pine, balsam, and strawberry. The strawberry obviously is a curveball here, but it works really well in bringing this nice, fresh sweetness to the pine note. And the pine is great too. It has a really coniferous smell to it. It is really good. Wear it a lot in around Christmas time. I think this is the only one I don't have a review of in this video, but I need to, so stay tuned for that. Next is another imaginary author's Every Storm a Serenade. I always get the name of this confused. For some reason, I always get this name confused and call it Every Song a Serenade, which I guess every song isn't a serenade, but whatever. So Every Storm a Serenade is a really cool fragrance that is not really a winter fragrance, although it came out in the winter. Now, Josh at Imaginary Authors says he thinks this is a winter fragrance, so you can take him at his word with that, but it has a really nice eucalyptus note. It's really salty. It's got a really nice woodiness from spruce. It has vetiver, cologne, and ambergris in it, and all of that shapes into a really beautifully refined aquatic-like scent. Now, obviously, woody aquatics are more for summer, and I will wear this for the summer, but I wore this a lot in the winter because it came out in the winter. I have issues with its longevity, but I really think it's because my nose gets tired of it, which is kind of unfortunate because it's a beautiful scent. Oh my, I'm gonna try this more in the warmer weather to see how it performs on me and see how it does and see how it smells. And I have a giant review of this down below. I have so many reviews who collaborated to make this one giant review of this, which it is awesome, so go check that out. Next is A City on Fire by Imaginary Authors. Now, A City on Fire, really smoky scent. And some people think that it's a little bit too smoky, and I actually think it's just right. It has this nice spicy and bitterness to it at the very start, which is very interesting. It retains like this really nice smokiness, and then as it dries, it turns into a berry scent, a musky berry scent. Now I could read you off the notes in here, but I really don't get a lot of what is listed in the notes. That's not a bad thing. I just get spice, smoked wood, and then musky berryness as it ends. But this is definitely one you really need to check out. It is super daring, and I really love it. And I have a review of that down below. All right, let's go to Creed. This is my decant of Original Santal. Original Santal had a ton of hype back when it first started blowing up on YouTube. It is still one of my favorites from Creed. My wife especially loves this one. Now, if you watch the video of the speech I made at StyleCon, I'll have a link down below. I mentioned a story about Original Santal and my son's birth. I wore this a lot when he was born. This is a really wonderful, spicy, woody scent. It has noticeable sandalwood and cinnamon, and those match so well together, as well as a little bit of a juniper hint at the top. I love this scent, and I'll always have to keep this in my collection. Besides the fact that it really reminds me of my son, my wife really likes it. Next is Royal Oud by Creed. Now this by far is up there with my favorite scents from Creed. It's probably number 2. Now Royal Oud, not much oud. But what it lacks in oud, it makes up for with personality, because it is an incredible, spicy, woody scent. For some reason, what this really reminds me of is smoked pipe tobacco. And there's no tobacco listed in the notes, but it really reminds me of that really aromatic, spicy pipe tobacco blend. One of my granddads really liked pipes, and I still remember the smell of my granddad. It was really a wonderful smell that this kind of conjures up in my mind. The spice comes from a pink pepper note, which is very prominent, but it's tamed by some other woody notes. Now there might be a little bit of oud in here. There's a twinge of sourness, and it's way in the background, but it's a really refined, gorgeous scent. I wear this a lot when I really want to make impressions, or if I really want to be dressed up. If I go to a wedding, this is one of my go-tos for weddings. And of course, I have a review of this down below. Next is Tom Ford Tuscan Leather. Obviously, one of my decants here. Not a lot left in here, but considering how beastly this fragrance is, I think this will last about 120 years. Seriously, you probably only need 1 to 2 sprays max on this scent. It is powerful. Now, Tuscan Leather, not a lot of leather in here. But despite that, it still reminds me of leather. And it reminds me of like a cigar lounge with these leather sofas there. It has the perfect amount of smoke in this. I also smell a twinge of oud in there, and it kind of has this pungent sour note at the very start, but then all of that, as beautiful as that is, and as hard as that is, softens up and then changes into this raspberry fragrance at the very end. It is gorgeous. This has to be one of Tom Ford's best-selling fragrances because it's amazing. And of course, I have a review of that down below as well. Okay, the King of Winter. Tobacco Vanille by Tom Ford. Another one of my decants here. This will also probably last about 500 years. Now it's called Tobacco Vanille, but it probably should be called Cinnamon Honey. Because although I do get tobacco and vanilla in there, I get far more cinnamon and honey than anything else. And that's not a bad thing. I actually really love it for that reason. And I really love the tobacco and vanilla feel that this fragrance has too. This is one of the most perfect winter fragrances out there. It's incredible. I wear it a lot around the Christmas season and beyond, especially around the Christmas season. I don't know why, it's just become one of those things. But man, if I want to smell like $1 million, I wear Tobacco Vanille. Done. I have a review down below if you want to check that out. What's this little guy right here? Dior Homme Intense. You know, there's a little hidden gem you've never heard of that I'm bringing to the FragCon for the first time. Wow. Dior Homme Intense. Probably one of the most hyped up fragrances of all time. Not a perfect fragrance, but very good. Now the one that I have is one of the reformulations. The original one is probably a little bit better, but I really still don't care. It's not that different. It's really an intense version of Dior Homme, so obviously iris, with a little bit more muskiness and ambrette, and maybe a twinge of a cocoa vibe in there. Personally, I think Dior has better fragrances out there, but it's still really good, and I think you really need to try it. I have a review of it down below. Oh boy. Let's do it. Bois d'Argent by Dior. Now this is easily one of my favorites from Dior and one of the best that Dior has. It's a beautiful iris scent that is matched with vanilla and myrrh and I think a little bit of leather in there too. It is easily one of my most complimented fragrances. It lasts forever. I have a few stories where this scent has lasted over 24 hours and is still going strong. It's easily in my top 10 scents of all time. And no, I'm not making a video about that. I think this works really well as a unisex scent, and man, is it great during the winter time. I have a review of this down below. You can go check that out there. This is the next hype train. I've talked a lot about Fève Delicieuses. I love it. It is one of Dior's best, one of my favorites, especially for winter. It is a bittersweet gourmand fragrance that has notes of vanilla, cacao, tonka, and almond. I know this is supposed to be kind of a unisex scent, but really I think this is way more masculine. In some ways it kind of reminds me of Dior Homme Intense. In some ways it reminds me of Lige, L'Instant de Guerlain Extreme. And in some ways it reminds me of Tonka Imperial by Guerlain. But it's better than all of those by like 100 times. Fantastic scent, gotta get your nose on it. And I have a review of it down below. So that's all I have for my fragrance rotation for winter. Let me know what you wore in winter in your fragrance rotation. Let me know down in the comments down below. Of course, if you haven't already, please like and subscribe down below. I will love you for it. Until the next time it drops below 50, I'll see you next time. Now, I'm about to go put some clothes in the attic.